Welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast, where we talk to C-level leaders from across the payments landscape. We'll be discussing the products and services that impact the payment space today, as well as trends and predictions for the future of payments. We will also hear stories from our guests about their journeys to the top.
We are an ISO enablement platform, kind of like Salesforce on steroids, but specifically built for the payments industry. And we help companies that sell payment processing services, which are ISOs and also today include PayFacs. And they're able to do everything from the time that a lead is a seed, Greg, all the way through the lifespan of the account.
That was Dimitri Akhrin, the founder and president of IRIS CRM, and he is our special guest this week. This is episode 79 of the Leaders in Payments podcast, and I'm your host, Greg Myers. And hey, before we get started, if you happen to office in Houston, Austin, or North Texas, check out Fuse Workspace, where their mission is to help others do more. Check them out at fuseworkspace.com. Okay, back to the show. Dimitri was born in the Ukraine, and his family moved to New York when he was 8 years old. He went to high school and college in New York. He started his first business when he was 12 years old and started in payments in high school, and has worked in every role in a payments company, from appointment setter to sales to becoming an ISO. IRIS CRM, where IRIS stands for Integrated Reporting is Simple, is a business management system designed for payments. It is an ISO enablement platform that helps companies that sell merchant services. Customers use IRIS CRM to track leads. It has an electronic signature process for boarding a merchant, a help desk system, residual reporting, and more. IRIS CRM services more than 200 ISOs, which represent over 300,000 active merchants. Dimitri has 3 boys, aged 5, 3, and 1, that keeps him busy when he's not leading and growing IRIS CRM. We've got a great episode today, so let's get started. Hi, Dimitri. Thank you for being here, and welcome to the Leaders in Payments podcast.
Hello, Greg. It's nice to be here. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you to all the listeners for your time and being here with me today.
Great. So let's dive right in. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself, maybe where you grew up, where you went to school, where you currently live, a few things like that.
Sure, Greg. Well, I'll take it back all the way to the beginning. So some of you may know I was born in Ukraine. My family moved to New York when I was 8 years old. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, went to high school and college in New York. And I've always been very interested in computers, business, finance. Since a very, very young age, I started my first business, you can call it, when I was 12 years old. And I've had the opportunity to get into payments and grow up in payments. And I've been in payments since I've been in high school, which was more than 20 years ago. And while going to high school, I got into the payments industry, and since then have worked in pretty much every role in a payments company and got to experience every detail on my own, which I'm very thankful and fortunate for, because that's what's helped me build IRIS to what it is today in the quality and detail. So for example, I started out as an appointment setter, where I was setting appointments for outside sales reps to go and meet with merchants face to face. Then I graduated to actually being a sales rep and meeting with those merchants, doing proposals, applications, negotiations, and reprogramming equipment of all various types. Then I graduated into running my own sales team, then eventually to becoming an ISO. Once I became an ISO, I graduated to an ISO that works with multiple processors. And, throughout this entire time, Greg, it was very evident to me that there really needed to be an independent system that interfaced with multiple processing networks to allow for boarding, merchant portfolio tracking, residual reporting, calculations for all different types of processors and different types of fees that exist on the different networks. And there really wasn't anything like this in the market. So we decided to build this ourselves.
Okay. So back to the business you started when you were 12. Did you have a successful exit from that business?
Yes, I really wasn't able to continue doing it. It had to do with selling video game type of equipment and video game types of things, but I was really focused on my school and really had to devote my time to study. So it was more of a part-time type of thing, but I would say it was very successful, and being able to import and export different things and continue to sell them to my friends was really a good way to make money while in high school for trading cards and things like that I liked during that time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about the company. Can you tell us exactly what IRIS does?
Sure. So IRIS CRM, which actually IRIS stands for Integrated Reporting is Simple. IRIS CRM is a business management system designed specifically for the merchant services industry. We are an ISO enablement platform, kind of like Salesforce on steroids, but specifically built for the payments industry. And we help companies that sell payment processing services, which are ISOs and also today include PayFacs. And they're able to do everything from the time that a lead is a seed, Greg, all the way through the lifespan of the account. So for example, our clients use IRIS to track their leads when they first become touch points. Then it moves into an electronic signature document process, which avoids any type of double data entry with the merchant and then getting that data into the actual processor. So we have a module in IRIS, that's our proprietary module. It's called Turbo App. And this is what our clients use to actually board the merchants into the processor platforms. We have underwriting notes and communication back and forth and submission of documents. It really creates a single system instead of having every ISO going into a different acquirer system every time they have a new relationship that they work with. Also, we have an integrated help desk system for tracking tickets, creating tickets, monitoring merchants, making sure that things don't fall through the cracks where the agents can submit tickets to the ISO. The ISOs can monitor the things that get submitted to the processors, monitor due dates, who the things are assigned to, and really creates a central point of updates where the people don't even have to log in into IRIS itself. They can have notifications sent to them as things are updated via email, text message, or right through our mobile app. Also, we have a phone system that is a complete desktop phone replacement through where just using a headphone type of plugin or any type of USB plugin system, people can make and receive those phone calls right through an IRIS system, which really enhances the relationship. It's certainly much better. We find that an ISO would perform some type of verification like, hey, Greg, can you confirm the last 6 digits of your merchant account number or the name of your business, as opposed to, hey, Greg, what is your merchant number? Type of things like that. So all of these things put together then all end up in, of course, last but not least, which is our most powerful feature, which is our residual income calculation module. I would definitely say it is the most powerful and robust industry type of residual calculation system. And today, overall, IRIS serves more than 200 ISOs, and that encompasses providing reporting for more than 300,000 active merchants on a monthly basis. And just as of February 2021, to put that into perspective, these ISOs in cumulative, we've reported on for over 6.5 billion in monthly volume, and that actually breaks down to over 74 million individual transactions processed per month, which IRIS reports on. So with the recent uptick in card-present merchants that we felt in this month, as people are getting more comfortable and vaccinated, we definitely expect these numbers to grow significantly in the coming month. And I'm talking about the active merchant count, which is really our North Star metric, Greg.
Okay. And then how do you go to market? Do you have a sales team or through partnerships? How do you go to market?
Sure. We actually have all of those channels. One of the bigger channels, which we've kind of had to put a pause on, is, of course, the trade show channel, which we highly miss very, very much. But it still it hasn't stopped us in any way, shape, or form. We do have a sales team where we have a demo part where we set up demos with folks that are interested, and they submit demos through our sites, or we get referrals from processors, industry consultants, just people that know our names, and actually people that, let's say, used to be managers of an ISO that now start forming their own ISO, have already a lot of experience with our system and don't want to or need to relearn a different system. So we get a lot of business that way. So in general, that we are working and seeing a lot of different ways that, because we've already delivered a quality system and we really follow our word a lot, that the people and the industry has really supported us. And we've been very, very fortunate to have a steady pipeline of new incoming leads from a variety of sources.
Okay. Are there specific types of ISOs that are more attractive to you than others?
Well, I would say no, because we service the gamut of ISOs. So we service retail ISOs, wholesale ISOs, and we also service sponsor banks now. That's been a new type of market that we've been working with since Q4 of 2020. And I would say that the services that the clients use themselves are different. But from our perspective, we treat and approach every one of them with a solution set that is beneficial from their perspective.
Okay. Are there a couple of product features that you're excited about that you want to discuss?
Sure. So in terms of new things that are in the hopper that we've been working on for quite a while. So one of the features that I'm really excited about, Greg, and we've been working on this feature for over a year, is our residual expense verifier. So with this feature, ISOs will be able to verify in a CFO-like fashion completely automatically that the fees which are being charged for their Schedule A's that they've negotiated with their processors or acquirers are in fact correct. So this is something that's already been in beta for a while, and we've already discovered a lot of found money, you can say, for our clients, and it's really been a powerful tool. So I'm very excited to be rolling that out in the next couple of weeks for all of the different supported processors. So I think clients will really love that. And another thing that I would definitely have to say is huge, because we've been working on another part for also over a year, and that's our complete redesign. So Iris was started in 2010, and we really have added features, but we have not changed the look and feel of the system. So for over a year, we've been converting the entire site and rewriting it in a modern technology using React, which is a React JavaScript framework. So our entire system platform is going to be redone with a full screen view, with a modern UI, with a lot of bells and whistles. And it's really going to come not just as a redesign, but really as an enhancement to many features, including reporting, just speed, and how the system is used based on our last 10 years of experience and a lot of feedback, which that's one of our really, I would say, biggest cornerstones, and the success of the company has been the openness and the feedback receptiveness that we work with. And we really believe that our clients really do have a voice. And I hope that our clients feel the same way, that we do take their feedback very seriously. And a lot of the things that we do implement, and please, for all the listeners here, please continue sending us your feedback and work with our project managers to help us develop the system, because it really has become what it has become because of the valuable feedback that we've had. So once the new design comes out in the next couple of months, I think it's going to help clients a lot, and it's really going to give everything a fresh face and really give it a look too. It has to work well, but hey, it actually has to look good too.
Right. So what would you say differentiates your company from your competitors out there?
So there are a lot of different things that differentiate us. It all depends on the perspective and who is asking the question. So I'll kind of go over a couple of the different examples here. So the one is kind of, without a doubt, is the number and the level of the integrations that we have with the processors. So in terms of the quantity of processors to which you can board new merchants to our system is second to none. The level of the diverse coverage of residual reports that we support, with 50 plus today of the different types of reports that super ISOs, wholesale ISOs, and processors create out there, we support them all. So the ability for a new client to come in and not have to go through a 3 or 4 month implementation process where we would have to develop something just for them, that's all out the window. So that approach of being able to jump in and get started and really have what the clients want to be implemented from a time perspective, because time is money, is really, really important. Also, following the residual trend side of it, because the residuals really are a huge part of what our system does and really why our clients use IRIS CRM today. And that is the number of different customization opportunities that are available for calculating residuals, because ISOs have a lot of different ways that they do calculate and run their business. So being able to support a lot of those models outside of the box to manage all the different Schedule A's and deals that they have with their agents and sub-ISOs, et cetera, is very, very important. And it has to be accurate. So if it's not accurate, it just wouldn't work. And we really believe in the quality of what it is, and we don't overpromise and underdeliver. We always stick to and don't oversell, and we say, hey, this is what we have. This is how it works. And we really try to understand the fit with a client before they become a client, because we don't want to frustrate anybody. And I think that's kind of a thing that has happened in the industry where people might get cold feet, and we really make it very easy for them to use our system, with one of those other items being that we provide a CRM migration service completely for free. So whether somebody's coming from a Salesforce or any other type of system and they have data, or they have an internal system that they've been building for the last 10 years that they're thinking, okay, well, does it continue to make sense for me to continue investing into it, or maybe buy something that is perfect and built for the industry, with that, instead of me having to invest tens of thousands of dollars into a development team, which just builds something that already exists, versus keeping them and having them work on product and fun and exciting new things, building gateways and products, and let us do the heavy lifting on the other side. That whole part, the fact that we do the heavy lifting and we essentially transition from any system right into Iris, so that those folks can on day one already be working with the data that they have, and they're not starting from scratch. That would not be possible or viable, is a service that we provide. So essentially, we make the ISOs very comfortable at the beginning to know, hey, if you're going to work with us, these are all the things that are going to work. We promise it, and we're going to help you implement them, so you're going to hit the ground running. So all of those things, in terms of, you can say, product feature sets and mindset, have helped us differentiate us from the competitors of, let's say, the ISO perspective. But there's more. If you're looking at this as a buyer, let's say in a more sophisticated or larger organization where you're dealing with bank referrals or agent banks, or you're a processor, some things like security and certifications really come into play. So the security and all the different things that we're doing basically checks all the boxes that makes it easier for those types of companies to do business with us out of the box. And we're very flexible to work with all types of data feeds, APIs, flat files, different types of things that people might need in order to set up an organization. For example, if they are, a majority of their business might be set in America, in North America, but let's say they have a smaller portfolio based in another country. So being able to be nimble and agile to implement those things that are always the caveats, and being open to that and willing to work with those types of situations, I think really separate us, without being a cookie cutter type of approach and saying, here's what you get, here's your cost per user per month or something like that, and this is what you get, and take it or leave it. We don't do that at all. In fact, actually, speaking of users, we provide an unlimited user system. We don't charge per user per month, because we own all the intellectual property and we're not built on any third-party system. That really gives us the flexibility, and clients really love that they can bring every single person that an organization does business with or ever shook hands with, and give them an account right into Iris, which is all completely private labeled under their own logos, under their own domain names. That's all a huge thing right out of the box to provide a value for somebody to consider us, versus another system that's not built for the industry.
Okay. I would think, given the breadth of ISOs that you have and sort of where you're positioned in the market, that you probably have a pretty good pulse on payments and what's going on. So where do you see payments heading, say, in the next couple of years, maybe the next 2 to 3 years?
Sure, Greg, that's a great question. I like to philosophize about this, and really this is my opinion, but I definitely see the e-commerce channel growing tremendously. So the shift to being able to service the card not present side of business is something that ISOs really need to figure out and get better at. I'm not sure how card present is going to come back into the world and how profitable that sector is going to be for ISOs that are focused in restaurant, retail, hospitality. It's probably going to be a limp for a while. So I think the e-commerce side of things is really going to push with Apple Pay, Google Pay, and just other e-commerce integrations coming into play. Also, it's kind of writing on the wall, and we've seen this with a few different companies, but the convergence between banking and the ISO or the processor happening more and more. The banks used to be the foot in the door to get into the industry, and now it seems to be kind of flipped, where there is a need for the bank to actually partner with the ISO to potentially grow its own business. And now the banks really will, I feel like, not necessarily even need to be physically present. You might start seeing a lot of banks starting to come into play that are completely internet banks or maybe a one location type of bank. And they're able to do the same type of ROI and the same type of profit that maybe other banks that have had to do over years in a traditional brick and mortar type of location. So that's a big part of it, I think, in the long run that we're starting to see already happen. Also, more than ever, we're seeing ISOs doing business with more acquirers. We're definitely not seeing exclusive deals being signed where an ISO would only work with one processor. We're definitely seeing 2, 3, 4 processor relationships for higher risk, low risk, a variety type of integrations, ISV type of partnerships that are happening where it's really essential, kind of table stakes, you can say, to begin doing business with multiple acquirers for a variety type of industries that a payment processing company might want to service.
Okay. And how has the shift to e-commerce, has it affected your business at all, either positively or negatively?
It has not affected our business, but we are a cloud-based solution. So we're internet first as a whole. I would say that our system has helped those clients that are tech savvy and have already been thinking in that mindset to A, go remotely, working fully remotely, I should say, and B, just being competent at the point where the employee base, the individual contributors, the sales reps, the customer support staff, that needs to be versed in using a system that is cloud-based to not only service the merchants, but service themselves to be able to do that. So I would say the shift to e-commerce has helped us and help our clients see the value of a system that IRIS provides.
Okay. If you were to get the crystal ball out and predict maybe the future of payments out there, say 10 years, what do you think it starts to look like?
I would see payment processors with a national bank charter coming into play. I would definitely see some kind of crypto/digital currency in play. Definitely the acceptance of that as a card type. You can have Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, and now you have crypto as a thing. How that plays out, I don't know, but I think it would be in some way tied to digital currency. Also, I think that using AI in a way to scale businesses and really get into the customer service experience at another level to be able to perform customer service and even sales. There's a lot of things that are happening, but they're still at a pretty early stage, Greg, where we are starting to see and even toy around with the idea ourselves of monitoring customer sentiment. If somebody's using our phone system, transcribing the things that are being said to provide certain types of tips of what to say to someone or don't say to someone based on what a merchant might have said at a particular time. So I think the efficiency of how people do business is going to increase with the tools that become available to them. So I think that maybe that's even a 5 to 10 year bucket. In 10 years in technology terms is a very, very long time.
Right, right. Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about you. Tell us about your journey to your role there as the president. And you're the founder of the company too, right?
Yes, I am the founder and I am the president. I am the 100% owner of the business. And the way that we started was servicing retail ISOs. So there are more retail ISOs than there are wholesale ISOs than there are sponsor banks. So it's definitely a pyramid. And we had to service and really do well by the retail ISOs, which are the biggest segment of the industry, which fall into the base of the pyramid. So by making those folks happy, we then got the opportunity to service the wholesale ISOs. Then after making wholesale ISOs happy, then we got introductions into sponsor banks to provide them reporting and other risk reporting types of services. So now that's the next type of caveat that we're fortunate to service. So we started from the bottom, now we're here, as they say, right?
Right. So basically, you were in the space, you saw a gap in the market, a need, and you went out and created a solution.
Yes, exactly. And it needed to be a gold standard of transparency that really didn't exist in the industry, where somebody looking at a residual report today, knowing that it comes from IRIS, knows that that report has specific capabilities and certain things that you will never be able to see. Whereas if you are an agent just receiving a plain old Excel spreadsheet without really much insight or breakdown into a lot of the fees that the really sophisticated ISOs and agents require in order to continue doing business together, we've solved for that. Because we would want somebody who is as sophisticated or not as sophisticated as they can be to be able to know that they're being treated fairly, accurately, and honestly by the folks that they've chosen to do business with.
Right. Okay. So what are some of the things that you're passionate about? So maybe pick one business related thing and one non-business related or personal.
Sure. So business related thing, I would say that I'm constantly learning new things and I like to read nonfiction things, definitely things about negotiation and business strategy. And I'd love to read about SaaS advancements and how to structure an organization and scale organizations. So that really contributes. And I share a lot of that information with our team. I'm very transparent with everybody across the company in terms of the information that I share. So that kind of does play into the personal side of things, but really more driving into the passion. And on my personal side, I have 3 little boys, 5, 3, and 1, and I love having fun with them and watching them grow. And on my free time, outside of COVID, I do love to travel. I like to ski. I listen to music. I have music on all the time. It gives me energy, and I listen to everything, or literally everything out there. It does come down to spending a lot of time with my family and watching my little ones grow.
So I have 3 girls. You have 3 boys. I can tell you absolutely nothing about raising a boy, but I'm sure you can tell me everything. Well, great. So, I started in payments about 16 years ago, and I'm sure you were in the space at that time. And the word fintech, I don't even think it existed then. And I sort of fell into the industry. I didn't say, hey, I want to go get a career in payments, so I'm going to go to work in the payments industry. I sort of fell into it. But I think it's different today, right? There's so much money that's been dumped into the industry and the fintechs that have been created. And there's just so much buzz that I think it's become a place where people in college, they're coming out of college and wanting to work in this industry. It's kind of a sexy place to be. So if you were to give advice to someone coming out of college, they want to get into payments or the fintech segment, what advice would you give them to help them be successful?
Sure. That's a great question, Greg. Definitely a lot of things have changed. I mean, even when you were starting out and I was starting out, they're just the types of entities that exist today, like PayFac, certainly weren't around at that time, or at least not called by such a direct term. So the people coming into the industry today, especially for college folks, I think actually have an advantage in the fact that they're growing up in a technology age where they are instantly computer savvy. So I think that is a big need to have in order to be successful today. And I'm not talking about on the level of knowing how to program or write code and support really deep DevOps things. I'm talking about just knowing innately how the internet works and how generally software is structured to get into the details. Because I think that the advice that I would give to the college side of things would be to get into the details, understand what is the value of one type of equipment or software versus another. What are the details and why would somebody work with a Fiserv and a Global Payments at a different time? Really getting into the auth, capture, settle side of things is definitely a big thing. And there are a lot of resources out there from as detailed as you'd want to get into, as much of a summary that you'd want to get, but really understanding the details and asking the questions and reviewing interchange and getting into the level 2 and level 3 and what does that really mean for the business side and how do you sell that, I think is a big thing. But also, I think it's equally important to talk about not necessarily just the college students, but just the general advice of maybe what it would be valuable to do if you're trying to make it in the payment space, even if you are already an ISO or an agent. And from my point of view and what we're seeing today with clients that are coming in and asking to use our services and the reasons why they're choosing to do that, I think is a big piece of advice that I would want to share. And that is the idea of buying over building, or considering building over buying. So there are a lot of people that are creating different products and tools, and they're just not realizing and doing the planning and the mathematics on it enough to understand what is this going to cost to build versus to buy. So for example, if somebody's looking to build a service or a product to act as a magnet to bring a merchant in to use their services for their merchant services, and they're trying to sell that product or service for $25 a month, there's a lot of math that is missing on the granular level to understand how long it might take someone to actually recoup their costs. So if development might cost $10,000 a month for 5 months to amount to $50,000, and how long is that going to take? And it seems like common sense to think about things in like that of how many merchants am I actually going to have to sign at $25 per month to break even, and then really think about the reality of, is that signing that number of merchants possible with my current staff and my situation, and really looking at the economics and not thinking about it like it's a great idea. Ideas are great, but really the cost and then the rollout, I think, are really big pieces. So my advice would be to see and really count and understand when you're looking to come in and really expand or change or pivot, do your analysis of the build versus buy opportunity and see if there are tools that will do what you want to do already, and then understand if it makes sense to go in that direction.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice. So we've covered a lot about you and the company and the industry. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, this is fantastic. I would love to catch up with you again, Greg, in 2-3 years or maybe sooner and see if my predictions were true.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Well, Dimitri, it's been great having you on the show today. I know your time is very valuable, so I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate it, and I'm honored to be on your show. Keep doing the great work.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Leaders in Payments podcast. Make sure you visit our website at leadersinpayments.com, where you can subscribe to the show and where you'll find our show notes. If you enjoyed listening, please share on your social channels as well.